Hey guys, in the last video we opened up your mushroom in Blender and we unwrapped the texture, or we unwrapped the net or the development of it so that you could look at it in the UV editor and start understanding how we're going to color and texture this. So now that we've got your flattened UV map, we can start to actually apply colors and draw some things onto your mushroom. So that's what today's video is going to be about. We're getting into some stuff here that's changed quite significantly since I last used Blender, so you'll have to just bear with me as I'm sort of relearning this on the fly, and a lot of the tools are in different spots and some things have changed, so it might be a bit of a slower video, but hopefully that means you're able to follow along as well. Let's jump in. So this is what we got up to last time. We've got our mushroom on the right hand side in our viewport, and we've got our UV editor over this side, or our UV map that we unwrapped, and what we need to do now is to start actually painting on this. So what we're going to do here, or what the process is we're going to create pretty much an image that sits over this, and whatever is present in these two particular segments of that image will display on our mushroom. Once we've created that image, you could go and open that up in a program like Adobe Photoshop and start editing it with a lot of details. You could actually put a picture of, I don't know, Nicolas Cage's face or something, and you'd get certain parts of his face present on your mushroom. Or within Blender, we can actually use a texture painting tool to paint on here or to paint on here, and it would copy across to the respective screen. So there's a bit of a process to do this. One of the first things that we're going to have to do is create lights in our environment here. If we don't have the lights, when we start painting on here, things aren't going to show up properly. So what we need to do is to grab our 3D cursor and kind of position it, up in the sky at a particular point, and then we're going to choose Add Light Point, and it should insert at wherever your cursor is currently present. And now obviously if you imagine that's like a sun that throws light in all directions out from that point, it's going to shine light just at this side of the mushroom, and this side over here where there's no light will be dark. So I'm just going to do another couple of lights at two different points to make sure that there's light all around our mushroom. You've got to be careful. If I click over here and then rotate, you can see that that's just put my 3D cursor underneath the mushroom. So you've got to sort of be careful and rotate your view around a bit to make sure that you're getting lights where you want them. And you can, of course, after you've inserted them, you could grab them with your move tool and actually move them around and manipulate those as you want to. So that's okay. We don't need to test or edit those or view them really. We can worry about that later. Obviously, if I have three lights up in the sky here, I'm not going to have any light underneath here, and the bottom's going to be quite dark from shadows, but we'll deal with that in a minute. So I'm going to jump back into edit mode and select all to make sure that I've got my unwrapped mesh showing over here. And what I'm going to do over this side is I'm going to come up to the top here and I'm going to choose new, and this is going to create a new image that we can use. Now if you click on this color swatch, you could create, we're going to make this red. So these are just the different color things. I'm going to choose RGB color format, and I'm going to drag my red slider here all the way to max to give me red. And I'm just going to call this something like mushroom test. I don't know, just in case it doesn't work, I've got a test and I know what file is what. If you just call everything mushroom, every file you create in reference to this is just called mushroom, it could get a little bit confusing. So you could call this mushroom image or mushroom texture, whatever, doesn't matter, and just hit OK. It'll zoom in for some reason. Anyway, now you can see excuse me, you can see that this is red and nothing's shown up over here. Now there are a few things that we need to do to get this to display over here. The first thing that we want to do is click up here in your 3D view, right up where we were dealing with the transparent button last time. You've got these four spheres. The current one that should be selected is just looks like a white circle. If you hover over that, at the bottom of the little pop-up it says display in solid mode. The next one across that looks like the beach ball that we used last video down here, but it's not colored, and if you hover over that it says display in material preview mode. You want to click on that. The next thing that we need to do is we need to come over to our material properties tab over here, and if this is blank, mine's blank because I undid some stuff to get some screenshots for the thumbnail and things like that, but hopefully yours still has the material that you applied last time. I'm just going to recreate it quickly. I'll call this mushy, and if you've already got this here and you're at this point, that's fine. Otherwise you just need to create a new one like I just did there. And what you actually need to do is down here where it says base color, you need to click on this little yellow dot and you need to choose Image Texture. And now you'll get these options here pop up, and underneath Image Texture you need to choose Open and choose the image that you just created over here in the UV editor. So I made one called Mush Test. I'm going to choose Open Image, and now your mushroom on this screen should be red. Hopefully that's worked for you. Once we've done that, you should be able to change from Edit mode here into Texture Paint, and then basically grab these brush tools and start to paint on your mushroom. Hang on a second. Why am I losing my mesh over here? Okay, I've run into a bit of an issue here where I paint these onto my mushroom, they're not showing up over here, and that's an issue. And so what's actually happened there is, I didn't realize because I was doing this fast, I've just paused the video to spend some time figuring this out. You'll notice that the image that I just chose here, Mush Test, is not what I called this a second ago, where I ended up calling it Mushroom Texture. Now the reason Mushroom Texture wasn't an option over here when I chose this, it was. Okay, so if your image doesn't show up here, a solution, and you'll need to do this eventually anyway, so let's do it now, is come back over to the UV editor and choose Image, Save As, and you need to save this image somewhere on your desktop, hopefully within your school multimedia folder. You've got a thing there called Mushroom Tutorial or something, and I'm just going to leave this, or I'm not going to call it the same thing, I'll call this Mushroom Texture. And I'll save that there. And now I just need to make sure that what I'm looking at here is the same as what I'm looking at here. Mush Test was one that I did a bit earlier, and I need to make sure that this is the same. So I've got Mushroom Texture selected there. Over here I need to make sure I've got Mushroom Texture selected. And now when I change this to Texture Paint, and I grab some of these tools and start painting on my mushroom, you can see that it actually shows up over here on my texture. You can also paint over on this side. Okay, I just had to pause again, figure out another problem, but that's okay. Like I said at the start of the video, I'm just relearning this on the fly because some things have changed. It wasn't letting me paint on here, and I also couldn't see my flattened UV net. So there are a couple of things that we need to select up here. In this box, what I had selected before was UV Editor, and what we need to have selected during this painting stage is Image Editor. And then in this section here, where we're set to View, we need to change that to Paint. And now it'll actually let me paint on this surface as well. And they're not showing up there just because that's actually underneath the mushroom, those boxes. So this will be the bottom of the mushroom, and so on. And so now what I can actually do while I'm working in this panel here, if you press N, you get this slide over thing for colors, or alternatively, you can just use this toolbar up here. And I'm going to start by just grabbing some colors here that are sort of mushroomy. I might go for a bit of a brown, make my brush radius a bit bigger, and I'm just going to paint the entire stem and underside of my mushroom a brown color there. And then if you wanted to, you could start to change the colors of stuff up here on the top of your mushroom. Maybe you want to have a pink mushroom or whatever. Now I'm just going to redo mine because what I did there messed up a bit. So I'm going to recolor the whole thing in red again. I'm going to go for, different size brushes. Every now and then I'm going to change the brush size, and I'm just going to neatly put a little dot there. I think the dots are coming up neater if I dot them on this screen, so that's what I'm going to continue to do. Change my brush size, put a dot there, and so on, and just continue to sort of dot that around, and eventually you'll get something that actually looks a bit like a mushroom. You could start to shade some of this stuff under here. If you can't see stuff, it probably just means you don't have the lights in the right spot. So you could, for example, come back to object mode, put your 3D cursor down sort of underneath the mushroom, and then add yourself another light. And now when you come back into, I've got to unselect that light here. When I come back into, no, I beg your pardon, I want to grab that, select this, and come back into Texture Paint. Hopefully you'll be able to see underneath your mushroom and the colors a little bit better so that you can continue to do your painting. So that gives you your mushroom over here, and you could take a screenshot if you wanted to share it with me online. And in the next video, I'm going to talk to you about inserting a camera and controlling that camera so that we're actually able to use the render function here to render out a proper image without all this net and lights and stuff around it. So we'll work on that next video. Thanks.